Picture this, it is 2 in the afternoon, and not long ago, you just finished up a healthy lunch. You had your chicken breast, a side of quinoa, maybe a side salad with a drizzle of olive oil on it. For all intents and purposes, you're doing everything right. And yet, here you are, fatigued. Maybe you've got a headache or migraine, feeling bloated in your stomach. It's tough to sit down. You're ready for the end of the day before you're even out of work or before the kids get home. But you're doing everything that you're supposed to be doing. So why do you still feel like crap? Now I'm going to say something, and in fact, in this video today, I'm going to say a lot of things that are going to make people uncomfortable. It might make you uncomfortable. At one point, it made me feel uncomfortable, and it's sure as hell going to make people in the fitness and wellness space feel uncomfortable as well. But I want to tell you something. The problem is not your body. It's not that your body is broken. It's because we've been sold a bunch of nutritional healthy myths that actually don't help our body heal or help us to move forward. They keep us in these cycles of poor gut health, chronic inflammation and pain, and fatigue that just won't quit. If you're new here, welcome. My name is Courtney Soma. I'm a board certified health and wellness coach, holistic nutritionist, and certified personal trainer, and I help women take a comprehensive approach to their body's healing and overall health. Today, we're counting down the 5 biggest nutritional myths that I see that women cling to because they're told this is what they're supposed to do, but it's actually keeping them stuck in cycles of pain and fatigue and not making any progress. So stick around because myth number 1 actually surprises people the most, followed by number 2. So those 2 are the bangers, and it might ruffle some feathers. And again, if you've been here with me, I'm okay with that. The first nutritional myths that we're going to talk about today are around fats. And you might commonly hear things like fat doesn't make you fat. The brain is comprised mostly of fat. We need to eat our fats. We need an ample amount of fats. But is that actually true? And could it be sabotaging your results either in health, healing, or fitness? Now, to be clear, healthy fats in the forms of avocados, raw nuts and seeds, used in appropriate amounts that the human body can break down efficiently are not the problem, and in fact can be good for us. We do need fatty acids. I am not saying that we don't, but to the extent that we are pushing fats, is it actually beneficial or is it hindering our body's ability to function? So let's explore it. First, we're going to look at fats from a healing standpoint, since I primarily work with women that are dealing with things like chronic pain, fatigue, migraine, and gut dysfunction. When we consume too much fat, and let's first explore what is fat or too much fat. We often are consuming 40 to 50% of our calories from fat, and it is way more than what's found in nature, whether it be in nuts and seeds or avocados. Those are pretty much the only differences. But when we consume ultra-processed foods, high animal products, diets, yogurts, cheeses, meats that aren't lean, even meats that are lean, are all sources of saturated fat and cholesterol. We tend to overburden our body with fat. It thickens the blood and it further bogs down the liver. And you will hear a lot of people say these days, the liver's detoxifying, it's doing its job, it doesn't need any help from us. And I'd like to spin that a little bit because I want you to imagine you doing your job. If someone kept piling on more and more paperwork and they just kept stacking it on, before you know it, you have a pile up to here that you can't even get through yourself. So what do? You have to pick and choose the most important work, and the rest, who knows? You'll get to it when you can. The same thing happens with the liver. And one of the things that the liver does is help to break down fats. It does this by producing bile that's stored in the gallbladder. And so many women, especially, are having their gallbladders removed. So when there's no gallbladder to regulate bile distribution to help break down dietary fats, what happens is the liver has to stop what it's doing, produce bile to help you digest the food that's in your system right now. It's not efficient, and it further bogs down the liver, and it can't do what it's meant to do. The other thing that happens is the liver has to filter the blood. So if we have an abundance of fatty acids flowing through the bloodstream, not only is that thickening the blood and reducing oxygenation that gets to the cells, it has to go through the liver, and the liver ends up retaining some of that fat. And thus, what do we have going on right now? An epidemic of non-alcoholic fatty liver disease diagnosis. So there is a huge downstream effect on health and symptoms that we could explore with the liver, and it's one of the cornerstones of our nutrition plan and the vitality method, but we don't have time for that today. But this just goes to show you what dietary fat actually does in the body from a healing perspective. So if we're focusing on high fats, even if it seems like we're eating healthy whole foods, we still may not be making progress, and this could be one of the reasons why. Number 2, you might have heard a couple of things around, fat doesn't make you fat, and likely you might have heard the comment, the fat you eat is the fat you wear. Now, there's a lot more that goes into it when it comes to our weight and our ability to lose weight or gain weight or to maintain a healthy weight. But when it comes down to it, dietary fat is very easily stored as fat in the body. It is a very simple process to convert fatty acids into adipose tissue. Carbohydrates, on the other hand, which are often to blame for weight gain, have a very inefficient method of being converted into adipose tissue, our fat, the fat that we wear. It is much more difficult for the body to convert carbohydrates to fat than it is to just store what is already fat as fats. Something else that we commonly miss is that fat has 9 calories per gram, whereas carbohydrates only have 4 calories per gram. So you can literally eat double the volume or weight of food, per gram in carbohydrate intake than you can with fat, because you're able to consume more food for the same amount of calories, okay? 9 calories per gram, you're going to have to eat less food if you're watching calories, if you're having a high fat diet versus a high carbohydrate diet where your body can easily produce or convert those carbs into energy that the body can use and excrete the rest. It's much more difficult for the body to convert carbs to fat. We often hear that we need to be consuming fats in order to have a healthy brain. And what we know is that too much fat, like we learned earlier, actually prevents and lowers oxygenation to vital organs like the brain. If there's too much fat in the bloodstream, it can't get the amount of oxygen that it needs. Additionally, something that a lot of people don't even know is our liver actually produces cholesterol, and it produces all of the fat that we actually need. Number 4, let's talk about caloric restriction. Most of us attempt to restrict our calories in efforts to lose weight. And yes, you can have temporary weight loss with caloric restriction, but what usually happens? Once you stop restricting the calories, the weight comes back on. And there are several reasons for this, but it actually does us a disservice when we're restricting our calories, especially for an extended period of time. And here is why. When we restrict our calories, our body actually adapts. So it will learn to function while burning fewer calories. So you're not eating less calories and burning the same amount. You are eating less calories and your body learns to burn less calories to preserve energy. And if we're restricting too much and for too long, what our body wants to do is it will compensate. The hormone signaling changes, our cravings increase. So we finally throw in the towel and start eating whatever we want again, and the weight comes back on, and then we feel like a failure. So that's from a weight loss perspective. But when we're looking from a health perspective, a lot of women are reducing their calories and they're not getting adequate nutrition that the body needs to heal. It needs antioxidants, it needs hydration, it needs fiber, vitamins, minerals, all of these things, the micronutrients. We're not talking protein, carbs, and fat. Those are the macros. Those are like the gasoline for the car. You need the gasoline for the car to run, but the micronutrients are like the oil for the engine. If you don't have the appropriate oil or you let it run dry, the car's eventually going to break down over time. We need those and we need adequate amounts. And what we're doing is a lot of us are going for calorically dense, even though they might seem low calorie, like 100 calorie packs or something might be under 300 calories and it's a small snack, but they're calorically dense and pretty nutritionally void. So we're focusing on calories and maybe even macros, which we're going to talk about a little bit later, but we're not focusing on the true nutrition that the body needs in order to actually heal, to restore, to repair, to lower the inflammation, to remove things like heavy metal buildup, pathogens, for the immune system to be able to fight low-grade infections, because we all walk around with our own store of pathogens in our body, whether it be viruses, bacteria, parasites, things like that. I'm not huge into the parasite thing, but we all walk around with these. Our body needs to be able to have a strong immune system and able to fight these things off, and that in turn prevents symptoms. When we starve our body of calories, what we're actually starving it of is essential glucose that we need for energy, vitamins and minerals that our body needs to heal, antioxidants that actually help repair cellular damage and DNA damage. It starves our body of hydrating foods and fiber, which actually helps to keep us full for longer and bind to and shuttle out environmental toxins that we accumulate throughout our lives. A starving body cannot heal, it can only survive. So if you want to go from surviving to thriving, you need to be nourishing your body properly. And this is one thing that I had to learn over the years, and that is why I'm sharing it with you. Number 3, if it fits your macros. And this has been all the rage lately, especially in recent years, because we're basically told if it fits your macros, you can eat whatever you want. And remember, macronutrients are the protein, carbs, and fat. And I'm here to tell you something. You can make a macro appropriate nutrition plan just with ultra processed foods alone. And you might even see some weight loss, some changes. But again, that's only going to get you so far because you're only putting gasoline in the car. If you're not maintaining the oil, it's still going to break down eventually. Food is information, and if we're only focused on macros and eating whatever we want, a couple of things are happening. We're not providing our body with the adequate information that it needs to function properly on a cellular level, but we're also not changing any behaviors. We're saying, I'll eat whatever I want, I'm just gonna eat it in a way that fits into my macro plan, and we never develop any long-term changes. So again, once we stop following a macro counting protocol, the weight comes back on, the inflammation comes back. You might have more pain. Your pain may never even go away if you follow something like this because it's not a nourishing way of eating, okay? If we want to truly heal the body, it's not about calories and macros. It's about all those other nutrients, the micronutrients, the vitamins, and the minerals. The minerals are like the spark plugs of the body. They make everything happen. If we don't have adequate minerals, then we can't have proper enzymatic function, neurological function, cardiac function even. If we don't have adequate hydration, and we can get hydration from foods, structured water, if we don't have adequate hydration, every cell in the body needs water. If we don't have that, how are our cells supposed to function properly? Number 2, this is where it starts to get a little bit more uncomfortable and where people will probably give me the most pushback. But listen, I'm speaking from experience for myself and experience working with women that are struggling with chronic pain, gut dysfunction, literally years of gut dysfunction turned around, reversed in weeks. As early as 2 weeks, seeing ample progress in their gut health and their physical comfort, but dealing with migraine, chronic pain, fatigue, all right? And number 2 is high protein, low carb diets. We are told that this is the way to eat, and it is a complete myth. There are decades of research on that, and I am not going to bore you with all of the details from the literature. You can get the books that if you want them. Proteinaholic by Dr. Garth Davis is amazing. Anything by Neil Barnard, MD, Dr. McDougall, Dr. Brooke Goldner, Cyrus Kambata, and Robbie Barbero of Mastering Diabetes. These great minds will prove to you, and they've got the research and the literature to prove that high protein, low carb does not heal. And I am living testimony to that. And you might say, well, Courtney, all of these are plant-based doctors and you're a plant-based practitioner. And I want to tell you something about all of these doctors. They weren't always plant-based. They went plant-based as a last-ditch effort to heal their own health crises. That's what happened to me. I have not always been plant-based. And people don't want to acknowledge that because we live in a world where protein is king and carbohydrates are demonized. But I want to tell you, the higher the protein and fat, actually the worse health outcomes that we see over time. And one thing that I'll say is we live in a world where we have research coming out day in and day out, and it's you can prove anything that you want these days. You can prove things on the carnivore side, the keto side, the vegan side, and it's all going to be conflicting information. One thing I will point out is a lot of studies that are advocating for high protein diets are either short term, they are not adequately adjusting diets for different groups, including the controls. So the results might seem one way, but they weren't controlling the studies in a manner that they should have been in order to yield appropriate results with distinctions between the groups. And also, we can manipulate variables in any way we'd like. We can prove just about anything based on how we manipulate the variables, and science has proven again and again, and there's studies that show this, research results, outcomes, conclusions almost always favor the funding party. So it is very rare to have an unbiased funding party, but it's something that's really important to note, and bias can easily be hidden. Companies, industries, they can provide funding under a different title, expecting research to be done that will provide favorable outcomes for their overall industry or their business or their organization. So that does happen. And as someone who went to school for science and worked in a lab and is very passionate about science, that sucks, right? To know that this is going on, it sucks. But that's the world we live in. So in any event, if we limit carbohydrates, healthy carbohydrates, whole foods, not ultra processed carbohydrates, not cookies and cupcakes and all of these things. If we limit those whole food carbohydrates, we are depriving our body of essential glucose that it needs to function. Our brain's number one fuel source is glucose. It needs it to function, and our brain consumes 25% of the overall energy that we consume. So if we want to have a healthy brain and reduce the brain fog and fatigue, we need to be consuming adequate amounts of glucose. But this method is demonized in popular culture. People are worried about being deficient in protein, and everywhere we turn, people are thinking about, where can I get adequate protein from? You're seeing protein on Pop-Tarts at Starbucks. Let me tell you, if we're trying to get protein from Pop-Tarts and Starbucks, there's a bigger issue, all right? It is a huge, massive money-making marketing boom, and it's to our detriment because it's not helping us heal anything. The more we focus on protein, the more we're excluding other nutrients. Something that is also not recognized, and we have found this over the years, we have debunked the complete protein myth as well. But every single plant food has all of the amino acids, including the essential amino acids. They are in various amounts, but we have also learned that we don't need to combine to make complete proteins. We need to eat enough food so we're getting enough amino acids, and the body basically stores them in a pool and pulls it for when it is necessary. Kwashiorkor is actually the diagnosis for protein deficiency. And that is one thing that you have probably never heard of before and probably never will, because we are not dealing with protein deficiency, especially not in America. So no, you do not need to hit 20, 30, 40 grams of protein at every meal. You do not need to choke it down and let your inflammation and constipation, your gut health suffer, because that's what happens. It slows everything down. It's not the gut being more efficient. It is slowing down, and these things are putrefying in the digestive tract. What we need to focus on is whole, nourishing foods that are going to hydrate and provide your body with the nutrition that it needs in order to heal. So if high protein, low carb, that health myth, that craze was not enough for you, let's talk about number one, and that is the myth of moderation. And you will hear this everywhere, everything in moderation, but I'm here to challenge that. And before you come at me with your pitchforks, I am not saying don't ever have things that are unhealthy. We went to a ballpark yesterday and I decided that I was going to allow myself to have French fries. I'll be honest, I looked for a salad first. Couldn't find one on our level. I ordered some French fries. I made sure that I ate healthy earlier in the day. I made sure that I ate healthier in the evening. I knew it wasn't the best choice for my health, but I didn't disguise it as moderation, because moderation is a trap that will keep you stuck forever. We used to use the term moderation in order to limit what we had. Okay? And the alcohol industry is one of the biggest industries that has pushed this, drinking in moderation, whereas it should be drink minimally, if at all. It has turned into just drink in moderation. But what does that mean? What does it mean to you? What does it mean to me? What does it mean to someone that's struggling with alcohol addiction? Moderation, first and foremost, means something different to everyone. And before we know it, by the end of the day, we've had a moderate amount of a bunch of things that are going to sabotage our health. Moderation may work for the early 20-something that hasn't had a lot of stress in life, not a ton of exposures, isn't dealing with a chronic condition, a diagnosis, or any symptoms. That might work for them. But for somebody that's been dealing with chronic symptoms for years or decades, moderation is going to keep you stuck in cycles of pain and fatigue and frustration, because you're never going to be able to make any progress. It sounds nice. It's a nice thought, but the reality is it holds most of us back right where we are. Moderation is not a health philosophy. It's a permission slip. You do not need a diet full of smaller amounts of inflammatory oils or ultra-processed foods or fast foods, just a little bit less. What you need is a foundation, and the foods that you choose most of the time need to be whole, nourishing, complete plant foods in order to give your body all of that information that it needs. Your cells thrive off of that information. And if it's not getting the right information to your cells and your organs, then it's not going to execute appropriately. Just as like if you were working and they gave you a crummy employee manual on how to do your job, and then all of a sudden you're doing everything wrong because you got the wrong instructions. It's the same thing with our body. It needs the right instructions. So we've talked about moderation, high protein, low carb, if it fits your macros, caloric restriction, and fats in our diet, how all of these nutritional myths actually fail us. Every single one of these is food noise, and they're touted by people that are seemingly healthy. I mean, a lot of these influencers, these self-proclaimed health gurus, weight loss experts, they may look great. We want to follow their information, but first and foremost, looking good is only one sign of health. It doesn't necessarily mean you're healthy on the inside or that they won't develop a chronic condition later. Every single one of these myths keeps us in a situation where we're managing symptoms instead of healing from the root. But I want to remind you, your body isn't failing you. You're not broken or falling apart. You've just been given the wrong roadmap. And once you get the correct one, you can be set on the right path to move forward and finally make some progress. Now, I have something that I'm super excited about, 2 things actually. By the end of the month or next month, so the end of August 2026 or early September 2026, I will be re-releasing the Surviving to Thriving workshop. This is a 2.0, if you will. If you were with us for the first rendition of the Surviving to Thriving workshop, where we primarily focused on the 3 vitality pillars and how they can change your life and your health, this is a little bit different. We're tweaking it. I'm not tweaking what I do or what I teach my clients. I'm just tweaking the content of the workshop. So I'm really excited about that. That will be released. If you want more information, click the link below. You can go to the website to subscribe to the email list. That way you'll be able to get the workshop as soon as it's ready. And in mid-September, I'm thinking the 14th through the 20th, I'm going to be rerunning the Vitality Reset Challenge. Last time I ran this challenge, we had a great sign up. We had some wonderful women show up for themselves. So I'm excited to relaunch that. So if you're interested, again, subscribe to the email list. I'll put the link in the description box below. That way you get all of the information and you can sign up whenever it comes out and you can join us and start taking back control of your health and your life. With that being said, I'll talk to you guys later. I'll see you on the next one.